Hey, Mike, good to see you again.
Good to see you. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good.
Good.
Good. Is there any way I can see all of them? I want to know if we have the forum or not.
Hey, Manny. Manny, you'll probably need to call a roll, make a roll call to see if you have a quorum.
Yeah, the clerk will do that, and
Oh, okay. I didn't know if the clerk was available. Okay.
Yeah, it's game on. We're good? Okay. Good morning, everyone. This time I'd like to call to order the Pasco County Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board for this day, Thursday, May 28th, 2020, 10 a.m. At this time, we will please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk.
O merciful Creator, your hands open wide to stretch out the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
Republic
One nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
So we do have a quorum, and please be careful of shuffling. If you're shuffling papers or moving, that comes out on our virtual meeting. So be careful with that. So that sometimes overrides someone speaking. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mike Napier,
Here.
Dave Knoll, Joe DiDomenico,
Here.
Michael Mahoney,
Present.
Rebecca Wilkinson Shields,
Morning.
Robert Borski, Jason Martino,
Present.
Catherine Saksevsky, Catherine Saksevsky,
she may be on.
There she is.
Okay, so that's Catherine Saksevsky, please. Okay, I just wanted to be clear for the record. Sherry Cook, Damian Barnes, Damian Barnes, Emily Hugart,
Here.
Mike Lacey,
Present.
Jose Mendoza, Diane Elrod, Debbie Malone, Debbie Malone.
Here.
Thank you. Chairman Ron Oakley.
Here. So that's enough, Manny.
Yes.
I think they're here because I see Mike Lacy didn't answer, but I see his name up on the board. So,
I
okay,
answered.
we
Are
have.
you not able to hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Thank you. Today we have a public hearing. Is there anyone, I guess, scheduled to be on public hearing today
Right.
for this meeting?
Commissioner, I just wanted to say that in accordance, this is Manny Latchmere with Pasco MPO staff. So in accordance with our planning agency guidelines and the TD grant, we're required to hold at least one public hearing annually. This is intended to afford the public an opportunity to express their views on the TD program in Pasco County. So at this time, it's requested that the LCB allow for public comment on the TD program.
Okay, and we have no one signed up. Is that someone trying to speak or are we washing dishes? Okay. Having no one signed up for public hearing, this time we'll adjourn the public hearing meeting and then we'll move into our regular meeting. And then we've already had call to order and the virtual meeting requirements.
Sure. This is Ronnie Blackshear with the MPO staff. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can.
Yes. Under item number 2, virtual meeting requirements, you should have in your package the resolution 2018 virtual meeting rules adopted by the Board of County Commissioners, and also the virtual meeting notice for the LCB meeting for the public comment methods. First, I would like to say regarding the virtual MPO meeting, virtual LCB meeting, board members, please note a roll call is required for all action items in order to establish a quorum, since not all members are physically present in one room. And each member must verbally state their name and indicate a yes or no to an action item. As with our TAC and CAC meetings, the public can participate in the virtual meeting during the call for public comment section, and they can do so either by phone call during the meeting or via email, as stated in the virtual meeting notice. I also would like to say in the packet regarding the virtual meeting notice, the resolution adopting rules for procedures for the LCB meetings to be conducted by Communications Media Technology. As you know, this was due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That resolution is based on the resolution of 2018 that was adopted by the board, and resolution 2150 by the MPO board. Is based on a series of executive orders issued by Governor DeSantis, and they allows the communications media technology type meetings, virtual meetings, and for the MPO board meetings, and also its advisory committees, which includes the LCB. The MPO resolution 20-150 was approved by the MPO board at its May 14th meeting. The governor's latest executive order 20-114 allows for virtual meetings through July 8th. And I would say that at the BOCC board meeting on May 19th, the board approved meetings to remain virtual through the June 30th. And that's all I have. And if there's any comments or questions, I'll be willing to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. We've already had invocation in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we've also had the roll call to determine that we had a quorum present. So now we go on to approval of the meeting minutes of February 27th, 2020. So I need a motion. If, when given a motion, please state your name and move on the motion. And if you're doing a second, please state your name before we do the roll call. Okay, so I entertain a motion at this time.
Joe DiDomenico makes a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, have a motion
This is Mike Napier. I second the motion.
and a second. At this time, we'll, by roll call, we'll vote on those approving the minutes.
Mike Napier, yes.
Joe DiDomenico,
Yes.
Michael Mahoney,
Yes.
Rebecca Wilkinson Shields, Rebecca Wilkinson Shields,
Yes.
I can hear
Jason
it's
Martino?
real quiet though.
Jason Martino,
Yes.
Catherine Saksevsky, Catherine Saksevsky,
She may be muted.
We can't hear you, Catherine. You're muted. No, we can't hear you.
Yeah, move.
Emily Hugart,
Yes.
Mike Lacey,
Yes.
Debbie Malone, Debbie Malone, Chairman Ron Oakley.
Aye. Motion passes, so we'll move on to the next item. If you will, please check your audio on your device, because maybe some of them don't have their audio. So some do, but it seems like one or two are not able to hear them. So, okay, we'll go to action items.
The first one is the Transportation Disadvantage Service Plan. It's agenda item 6A. Staff has completed the update for the 2020 Transportation Disadvantage Service Plan, or short TDSP, to meet the requirements of the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. Revisions in the TDSP include updates to the demographic changes, current operators, an update of overall transportation services provided by Pasco County Public Transportation. As part of the TDSP, a rate model also is included to determine the trip and mileage rates. Justification for these rates are based on the following. One, to comply with the CTD rates structure program, and also to help ensure the quality of services maintained and improved, and also to ensure a paratransit program continues to operate with enough funding. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I would like to go to page 96 that begins that.
Okay. Pull your mic to you, Manny. Pull your mic to you because you sound low here. I don't know if they're on there. Okay, good. I wasn't sure if they were hearing him, so.
Okay, so the bullets under the technical plan or the major components of the document, it's the development plan, which identifies goals and objectives based on the demographic analysis, ridership forecast, and existing service characteristics. Then we have the service plan, which identifies operational and administrative structure as it exists today. And the quality assurance describes methods utilized to evaluate services provided by Community Transportation Coordinator or PCPT that represents them. The updates are, we do a minor one each year and a major one that this is every 5 years. This was developed by the MPO and also PCPT, and it's to be reviewed and approved by the local coordinating board today, and then we'll forward that to the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. Oh, this is not moving. So this kind of shows you county demographics. On the left side on top is the age distribution in 2018 and also one for 2025. Is expected the persons age 65 and over are expected to increase by about 25% by year 2025. Disability in general is about 16% for Pasco County population that has one or more disabilities, and almost 37%, 36.9 exactly, are older adults population with one or more disabilities. To the right kind of shows you a chart about the income distribution. And 23% of households have an income of less than 25,000. Can you go to the next slide? So this this chart here is the TD ridership in 2018-19. If you look at the one on the left side, these are the type of riders that we have. These are persons with disabilities that make up about 36% of total trips in 2018-19. And older adults, which is basically age 65 and older, they are making up about 28%. There is a category in there called others, and this is clients of the coordination contracts with PCPT. To the right is the trip type. If you notice, 2/3 of the trips are for medical purposes, and another 21% is for education, training, and daycare. Next slide, please. So there's a whole bunch of numbers in here, but basically there's a couple of categories. One is the general TD population on top and the critical need TD population on the bottom. The difference between the two is the general TD population includes persons with disabilities, older adults, low-income persons, and children who are high risk or at risk. The critical need TD population is the individuals who, due to severe physical limitations or low income, are unable to transport themselves or purchase transportation and are really dependent on others to obtain access to health care, employment, and other life-sustaining activities.
Manny,
Next slide.
Manny, if I can we go back to that slide? As I read this, where I see the general TD population forecast, and at 2020, I see 214,000 out of the 545,000 population. Are you telling me that half our population is considered transportation disadvantaged?
Well, it's technically less than half. It's about 39%. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
That's a big number.
That's a big number, and
It's a big number, and it's really expected to increase by 8% based on the data you see on this chart over the next 5 years. It's the same rate increase for the critical need population. It's about 8%, going from 24,840 to 26,825. Most of this came from a Qatar research in 2013, and also some census information, and also some population projections from Bieber. This is what our consultant has put together for this presentation. You move to the next. So using the results of the analysis from previous slides, the needs assessment was developed, and the following conclusions were made. Demand for transportation from TD population will increase as the county's population grows, as you would imagine. Changes in the trip destinations and development of new areas will also affect the future of transportation demand. Transportation alternatives could include van pools, ride sharing, assistance in using of public transportation, both fixed route and advanced reservation, and also regional paratransit/fixed route services. Transferring riders from paratransit to fixed route will also, when feasible, to reduce cost. You go to the next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's key strategies from the implementation schedule in the full report. Basically, improvements identified from goals, objectives, and strategies, and are a tool by which the goals and objectives can be accomplished. Really is organized into 4 focus areas. One is the coordination improvements, and then you have the system policies. Go to the next slide. And then you have capital purchases and systems operations. And the next slide. One before that, I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of go over this slide a little bit. And Kurt can chime in if you'd like to. But if you see the capital purchases for replacement vehicles, the measure strategy is to replace 5 paratransit vehicles in 2020 at the tune of $504,000. There's also new vehicles, 5 new fixed route buses in 2020 for $2.5 million. And also, we're always working on the bus shelters and signage, improvements to the amenities and Title VI requirements, $280,000. Next slide, please. So when we prepared this PowerPoint presentation, we had the rate model still under review, and we received an approval from Commission for Transportation Disadvantage, and that actually is embedded in the TDSB report. Today, we're asking the LCB to approve this document, and we will submit it to the Florida Commission for Transportation right after this meeting, and hopefully they also will sign off on that. So I will entertain any questions that you may have at this time.
Anyone have any questions?
This is Mike Lacey from APD.
Yes, sir.
So on the types of trips, I saw, there's medical, nutritional, but I didn't see a trip type for, like, say, community access, just kind of general. Was that accounted for at all?
Mike, which I want to go to this correct slide.
It's one of the beginner slides, I think. I
Okay,
grabbed.
can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Here we go, that one, yeah. So the trip type, so it would life-sustaining other, would that be community access right there?
Hey, Kurt, can you chime in on that, please?
That's
I mean, these are trips maybe to grocery stores or stuff
Okay,
like
so that's what
that.
I'm asking,
Maybe
yeah.
to.
All right,
in answer to the question, you are correct, sir. That's where they would fall under.
okay. I had one more question that I know I always get asked by my folks, and that is, does cross-county kind of, osmosis of your systems at all, does that accounted for at all or not really?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Could you say that one more time?
Is there any like cross-county, plan or something in this plan? Like if people need to get to Polk or Hillsborough for employment, so to say, is that accounted for in this plan?
Not at this time. I am working though with our partners down south, the Sunshine line, and a little bit with PSTA on this. But I will brief some more of that when my briefing comes up later. Oh, I don't see it on the agenda items. I will probably brief it when it comes to the time for open comment.
Got it. Thank you.
I do want to add that the tri-MPOs in Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco have been working on such an issue of crossing the county lines and the need and the desire to have an entity operate that, because going to Moffett Center and other facilities are really desired and is one of the #1 priorities for the all three MPOs. So that's something we're looking at.
Okay, any more questions?
Yes, sir. I
If
have one
not,
question.
go ahead.
Kurt. Hey, Manny, I think it's the next slide. Down. It says that there is a demand for 2,245,590 trips. I don't understand what that number is. Just curious.
Okay, hold on. So the 2,225,000, that's your annual trips. It has the daily trips of about 7,000. I guess multiplied by 365 is that number.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? If not, this is an action item, and so I'd entertain a motion.
Jason Martino, I motion to approve the TDSP.
I have a motion,
Debbie Malone, second the motion.
and I have a second. Vote is by roll call. Madam Clerk?
Mike Napier,
Yes.
Joe DiDomenico,
Yes.
Michael Mahoney,
Yes.
Rebecca Wilkinson Shields,
Yes.
Jason Martino,
Yes.
Catherine Saksevsky,
Yes.
Emily Hugart,
Yes.
Mike Lacey,
Aye.
Debbie Malone,
Yes.
Chairman Ron Oakley.
Yes. Motion passes. We'll move
Jose
on
Mendoza's in
to,
attendance as well.
This is Damian Barnes from Veteran Services. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. They voted also.
The other one, I heard Damien Barnes, and who's the other one?
Jose
Say
Mendoza.
your name again.
Damian Barnes from Veteran Services.
Jose Mendoza, Resource Pastor Hernando.
Okay. All right. All right, motion passes. We move on to item 6B. Community Transportation.
Manny Lajmiri, MPO staff. So this again is Florida statutes require that a local coordinating board does a community transportation coordinator evaluation every year. And the staff has completed the process of compiling and assessing the data for this evaluation. The CTC, which is the Board of County Commissioners, but PCPT functions as their representative, has met some and not met some of the measurable standards, which includes ridership, on-time performance, passenger no-shows, accidents, road calls, complaints, and call hold time. There are, however, 3 measurable standards, which the accidents, complaints, and call hold time that were met by PCPT. They are recommended to conduct and report on-site observation of the system. PCPT has policies, goals, and objectives in place with a system that evaluates and documents operational activities. The dispatch scheduling accountability has improved immensely as a result of software updates. Further revisions, adjustments will be made based on changes to the operating environment. It is recommended that PCPT continue to monitor standards as defined and adjust accordingly. Finally, the recommendation calls for PCPT to improve on some of the measurable standards and the continued vigilant management of the TD program, seeking efficiency and service enhancement. The staff at this time recommends that the LCB approve the CTC annual evaluation. And I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Chairman, this is Mike, and I don't know if it's a product of the virtual meeting or because I see something up in the top left-hand corner of my screen, but Manny, can we get, I don't know if there's a long list. I don't see the list of recommendations. Are there any highlights that you can mention? It says we'll do better, but do better at what? Can you cover a little bit of that?
So if, Todd, if you go to page 119, okay, so this part of the report, you can look at each itemized section. For instance, on page 119 is the public transit ridership. There is a standard in place to have PCPT try to transfer about 1.5% of its current paratransit riders to fixed route. And you look on the 2018-19, maybe Kurt can chime in. We were not able to retrieve any information under this, and we rated it as not meeting the standard. If you go to the next page, so if you look for item number C, passenger no-shows, the standard is to maintain fewer than 3% of no-shows for all paratransit trips. In 2018-19, you can see the numbers, they roughly are about 3.17%. I mean, they're barely missing that standard. They're almost there, but it has to be reported as that they did not meet that standard. And so on. For the accidents, we're supposed to have to maintain fewer than 1.2 accidents per 100,000 miles traveled, and they are at 1.13, so they're meeting that standard. And you can just walk through. The rest of them are on the next page, road calls, complaints. These are all data-driven, and these were provided by PCPT and as part of this report. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Manny.
Hey, Mike.
Any other questions?
Kurt and Mike, just to understand, some of these things we have no control over as PCPT. As an example, the road calls, we have no control over our maintenance. That is all done by another organization within the county. And so we cannot really even influence that. the fleet maintenance takes care of that. So, and we're highlighting and working with fleet maintenance, but we can't physically change the maintenance policies of there. We can make recommendations, but it's up to fleet maintenance to implement. The other one is, like you mentioned, the no-shows. I can't tell a person they can't no-show. So if you look at the TDSP that's currently out there, those have been removed except for the road maintenance, because that's something we do need to track. But I can't, why no-shows is not a going to be removed out of that.
Mr. Chair, it's Jason Martino with the Area Agency on Aging.
Yes, sir.
I would agree with Mr. Napier that some of the standards that weren't necessarily met, the description in them are a little bit vague about how they will get improved. And I realize that 2018 and 19 was several years back if to catch up for these types of evaluations on here. But I guess I'm interested in the appointment times and the return trips. It looks pretty consistent that PCBP has had some trouble with meeting some of those too, some by a small margin, some not. But there's really no explanation in there on how that process could be improved to get passengers to their appointments on time and/or when they're desiring a return trip home, how that number could go up. Could you comment on that, please?
Mr. Chair, I can answer that question.
Yes, sir.
And Jason, the reason why we had so much problem meeting our requirements is because PCBT had a heavy reliance on demand taxi service to meet the requirements. And so there was contractual issues with that. We've already put into place that we no longer use taxi cabs. So since about October of last year, we have 0 taxi cab usage. That has increased the on-time performance. And there's other things we're moving forward too. The on-time performance, if you notice, was 95%. That's a little aggressive. Most across the nation can't make 95. You look at the current one, I think it says 90% now, which is extremely achievable. So we have already put into place by getting, taxi cabs, and some, our members here can talk to you about how taxi cabs used to show 2 hours late all the time, and we file a complaint and there's nothing done. Now, if someone shows up late, they work for the Pasco County, and we can address that issue directly. Of course, there's always going to be, a road shutdown, and there's nothing we can do. But those should become fewer and fewer an issue in what we're doing. And there's other things that we're doing too that I'll be able to brief to that's going to help us.
Those are fair statements. Thanks a lot, Kurt.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, this is action item. So we would need a motion at this time.
Mike Lacy, motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. I need a second.
This is Joe DiDomenico. I second that motion.
All right, got a motion and a second. My roll call vote.
Mike Napier,
Yes.
Joe DiDomenico,
Yes. Yes.
Michael Mahoney,
Yes. Yes.
Rebecca Shields,
Yes.
Heard her.
Jason Martino,
Yes.
Catherine Saksevsky,
Yes.
Deegan Barnes,
Yes.
Emily Hugart,
Yes.
Mike Lacy,
Yes.
Jose Mendoza,
Yes.
Debbie Malone,
Yes.
Chairman Ron Oakley.
Yes, motion passes. Next item, 6C, PCPT Coordinator Operator Contracts.
Right, so we have before you a couple of agreements with coordination contractors, steps to recovery and lighthouse for the visually impaired and blind. It's required that these be approved by the LCB, and we will entertain any questions that you may have regarding these two agreements.
Okay. Is there any questions? Hearing none. This is also an action item, so I'll need to entertain a motion.
Joe DiDomenico, make a motion to approve.
Got a motion? I need a second.
Debbie Malone.
second.
Okay, got a motion and a second by roll call vote.
Mike Napier,
Yes.
Joe DiDomenico,
Yes.
Michael Mahoney,
Yes.
Rebecca Wilkinson Shields,
Yes.
Jason Martino,
Yes.
Catherine Seksevsky,
Yes.
Damian Barnes,
Yes.
Emily Hugart,
Yes.
Mike Lake,
Yes.
Jose Mendoza,
Yes.
Debbie Malone,
Yes.
Chairman Ron Oakley.
Yes, motion passes. Next item's other business.
So typically we don't have anything this month. PCPT did not provide or do one this period. Basically, it's for the monitoring of some agencies, how they meet their safety and administrative requirements. I don't know, Kurt, if you are planning on bringing one for the August meeting, but at this time, Chairman Oakley, we don't have an agency to present before you for monitoring.
We don't at this time. Okay.
Just to give a heads up, I'm sorry, sir. Had to do with the COVID stuff. We'll be working with the agencies over the next 3 to 4 months to schedule things to be safe with the COVID pandemic and working with them. That's the main reason why. So, but we are working on those and trying to figure out how we can do it, whether we do it virtually or desktop, or they send me some copies of the files or something like that, just to make sure we're doing it safely.
All right. Thank you, Kurt. Also a question. Do you mark seats off on our ridership now when they get on a bus? They're separated. Is that you're doing every other seat or something of that nature?
We encourage them to do it, but we don't want to break up family units. So if it's like a husband and wife, they sit together. So we don't have specifically seats marked off, but we do, when they get on, hey, you remember social distancing, the drivers tell them about that and so forth. Right. Okay, good. Because I just heard yesterday with school buses, they're going to do every other seat. And I forget, it's very few, like 16 kids can be on a bus. So it's going to be a real hardship when they start school back for the buses. So a lot of transportation issues. All right, thank you. And staff announcements?
I just have one. We just recently received from central office a planning grant for instance, conducting these meetings is a part of a grant agreement that we're going to be processing through the Board of County Commissioners, and it will come before the board, Commissioner Oakley, and I will bring that before the LCB as an informational item in the next meeting.
Okay. Anything else?
Kurt, do you have any announcements you'd like to make?
I've got a few of them, and one of them is kind of important. I'll save that one till last. Just so you know, the TDSP requirements will be changing recently. It'll move from the MPO function. I'll be responsible for it as a CTC in the future, and that's according to the Florida Administrative Code. So just to give you a heads up on that. One thing, it talks about staff time and accomplishing a lot of these things. One of the things that we're working on in our budget is to increase our back office staff to be able to meet these needs. The cross-county trips just to let you know, last year or inter-county, you might say, trips, we applied to CTD a grant to accomplish those exact same things, going both north and south. Unfortunately, we did not make the cut, but we'll be doing that again when the grant is reopening to do cross-county type of trips through the CTC program. So we're looking at hitting the West Shore area and the FSU, I couldn't think of it, the VA hospital area. The one good piece of news, though, is if you're not aware of it, the VA is building a very huge clinic right over by the West Pasco Government Center. So I'm going to see, I think our needs for going cross-county trips to inter-county may decline because of that, but we still do provide those services every so often.
We also have one on the east side, Kurt. They're building a new facility for VA on the east side down in Zephyr Hills.
Yes, sir. I did hear about that just recently, and that's also going to be a big location for us. And we may even provide like a regular type of service for folks down there. And I'll probably be working with Damien on getting how we can make sure that we're doing that properly. But my goal is to make sure that we also have fixed routes going to those areas. And that leads me into my next thing. PCPT is going to be running what's called a comprehensive operational analysis. What that means is that we're looking at our whole system, top to bottom, back office, routes, the whole bit. And I'm going to want your inputs as a body on that. Probably in the winter, October, November, December, whenever we have the LCB in there, we'll be asking for your inputs on where you think locations and buses need to be going. So kind of think about where you think that, places we do need to hit so that we can start optimizing our system. The last time that one of these things happened was prior to 2010. And as a lot of you will know that 10, 15 years ago, the Pasco County has grown in a lot of different areas. We need to be servicing those areas, specifically on the east side. I know that has radically changed. So we're looking at that. And if you know, one other thing, if you noticed, I don't know if it was shown in the actual evaluation, but in the time period that that evaluation covered, PCPT went from 2,500 trips or 25,000 trips to 66,000 trips. So we've increased our service greater than doubled. So and still almost made all our requirements. A lot of those things, and specifically to you, Jason, that your questions is that we're still going through some growing pains, folks, but we're getting better. And one of the things that we've actually got going forward is if you remember, you may have remembered previous briefings, I talked about that we're going to upgrade our software and we're going out for bid. It was kind of on hold for almost a year now. Well, the final document is almost to be approved, and I'm hoping, knocking on wood, that next week it goes out for bid, which means that I might be able to tell you sometime in October or December, we're going to have things like you can schedule a trip via the phone. We'll have next day service, same day service if you want to pay a premium and accept whatever is available. Things like that are going to be available for our citizens out there to make their life a little bit easier and overcome those transportation barriers that they have. Now I need to tell you about the most important thing that you really need to hear about. There are some things going on up in Tallahassee with the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged Board. One of the things that they came down with is that they consider 88 trips to be a subsidized trip. That means if the person is living in the 88 corridor, we cannot use transportation disadvantaged funds to transport them. Well, while the 88 corridor is important, it actually limits our people, because if their location and destination are not in the corridor, they can't be transported. But the CTD Commission is not recognizing that fact. And we brought it up to the commission. I'm actually on the executive board for the Florida Public Transportation Association. And the director up there is basing everything off of what they feel that is, because it's a subsidized trip. We even provide a letter to them from the FTA saying, no, it is not. It's a civil rights program, not a funding program. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that, because you're probably going to hear more about that as time goes on. So far, they have not limited us as Pasco County on that. And so I'm able to provide even more trips for the citizens, but that could be a factor. The other thing that you need to know about is because we've had about a 30 to 40% drop in our trips over the last couple of months, just because the places aren't open. Schools aren't, we ain't providing those school trips. We're not providing those things. Well, what is going to happen is that the Commission for Transportation Disadvantages is going to take that money back in there and distribute that money out to other locations. And it's going to go back into the trust fund. We're trying to push it that, well, if we don't spend it all this year, why can't we spend it next year? And we're going to be looking for legislative support on that. So I just wanted to let you know that we may not be able to spend all our CTD money this year just because the trips aren't available, because the trips are not there. We're trying to do it to the max, but that money won't roll over back to Pasco County. It may go to other locations. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of those type of things. Beyond that, if there's any other questions for me, please let me know and I'll be glad to answer them.
Mr. Chair, it's Jason Martino. Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
You're absolutely right, Kurt. I raised the budget issue in the Pinellas meeting last week. I was fearful of that they would not reallocate those surplus dollars within the next year. And I think that that's a problem that is plaguing a lot of state general revenue funding across the board, no matter what service that they're providing. The state, from my understanding, is supposed to experience massive shortfall in revenue. And those monies that we don't spend this year due to the COVID shortage in ridership, for good reason, there's no optimistic idea that those monies will come rolling back to us within next year. So static funding, not a big help on the state level. I think I understand a little bit, but I'd like to see them make better. So good luck with the legislative actions on doing that. We had no luck with that thus far in the aging network for a lot of the programs, because some of our general revenue funding would not be in a surplus situation.
Yeah, Kurt, if I can, I'll also reach out to Senator Simpson, Representative Maggard, Representative Mariano, and Representative Zika, to let them know that's happening and see if they can help us, all the counties actually. So it's a statewide problem, I'm sure. So, but thank you for bringing that up. I have a couple other questions. Shady Hills is going to come later and later, or
right now
moving?
Right now, 1 October is what we're forecasting.
Okay. I hadn't heard lately, and I just was thinking about it because that's a good ridership area for us. So, also, how's the new? I mean, we didn't have a ribbon cutting or anything on the new maintenance barn. How's that working out?
Well, they're in the maintenance barn, and we're actually working on it. Whether it's going to be like a virtual or not, we're still coordinating that with the PIO office, and I'm hoping we can actually have a real one sometime in July, but stand by for words on that one. But sir, you're forefront in mind on that.
Yep. So we'll work toward that, because that's a great thing. I'm glad that's there, and I'm sure the facility's a big help for the operation. So, yep. Any other questions?
So we're now at board announcements, Commissioner.
Yep, go ahead. Board announcements.
LCB board, if they have any announcements to make.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, this is Jason Martino again. I have two quick ones.
Okay.
So at the Pinellas TD-LCB meeting last week, the Hillsborough County MPO presented to our board a recommendation to move our Tri-County subcommittee that worked really hard for the last 8 years on cross-county trips. I think Mike Lacey brought it up today, and a couple other people had talked about the importance of that. I was on that subcommittee for 3 to 4 years. A lot of work was done. Some of the mission had changed a little bit. There was the last that we had heard about it. There was a venture to try to acquire uniform route match software so everybody could talk to each other pretty consistently. I'm bringing this to your attention because I had asked Michelle from the Hillsborough County MPO if this was going to be presented at the Hillsborough County and the Pasco one. I didn't see it on the agenda today. I think I understand because things happen pretty quickly in this COVID environment. So I most likely expect it to surface on our next quarter meeting. I had some reservations about that I raised, and I'll probably continue to raise them if that comes up again. But this group did a whole lot of work on trying to achieve better cross-county connections to those big institutions that a lot of our seniors go to, the Moffitt Center, the Haley Center, and a couple of different other ones in that sense. And we thought that they made pretty good strides. The idea of moving that is going to be recommended that it moves to 1 time a year, and then that the only thing that will come out of that 1 time a year is a presentation to the TMA, the Transportation Management. I forget what the A is, who controls a lot of the county stuff, our multiple county stuff, and in my opinion, it was watered down just a tad, just because we, as a Tri-County representative, would only bring what issues we see with Cross County at that time. There was no information on how those issues were developed in unison with the other counties. So I'm just bringing it to your attention. It is a comment that this will come up soon, and I'd ask that you think about that recommendation critically to make sure that the advocacy that goes into cross-county trips is still there and still effective. That's my first comment, Mr. Chair.
Jason, if I could comment on that.
Sure.
We are going to bring it to the LCB in the next meeting, and you also are correct. This would be a part of the TMA priorities, and the local coordinating boards will come up with a priority list that the TMA will approve annually on their kind of like their needs and desires, their priorities for the region, for the Tri-County, Hillsborough, Pasco, and Pinellas counties. I'll bring it before the LCB in August meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Manny. And just so for your information, how the Pinellas County Board voted on that, we voted affirmatively that we would move to that, but we had amended the recommendation to include some meetings prior to develop what those issues are across county. We did not see that operating in a silo was an effective way to do it. So it just may come out of this board in agreement with that recommendation. I'm raising it just for attention purposes. And thanks, Manny, for making sure that comes to our next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my second comment is really complimentary, and I've just seen some amazing work being performed in both communities that I serve, Pasco and Pinellas County, where people and organizations have been nothing but innovative and adaptive. I want to give a real strong vote of appreciation for PCPT and all the coordinated transportation providers for remaining in the field as an essential worker and putting themselves at somewhat risk to make sure that people that are transportation disadvantaged get to those appointments that they need to. I know that Kurt has put systems in place to make sure that those drivers are safe as well as the ridership is safe. But consistently, even though ridership has been lower, PCPT and their coordinated contract providers have remained in the community where most people were staying at home, similar to us, socially distancing. That. So a real big round of applause to PCPT and their network of transportation for doing what they do each and every day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. That Kurt and his staff, they've done a great job in Pasco County, I know, and to keep the distance. They've been out there kind of on the front line as others have, and through this whole thing, and not knowing where a passenger comes on that bus or not, those drivers and all have been pretty well protected for that, and I appreciate that. So good comment. Any other questions? Okay, At this time, we have time for public comment. Is anyone on the phone or is there an email for public comment? Seeing none. Are there any other questions to add to today's meeting?
No, the next meeting would be on August 27, Commissioner, at West Pasco Government Center, or we will conduct it virtually depending on the situation at the
Yeah,
time.
I know Pasco County Commissioners, our meetings are going to continue to be virtual through June at this time. I don't know if we'll expand that and go further or not, or if we'll start coming back into having regular meetings, but we'll do that with very, very much caution and safety to everybody. So that's what the future looks like for our meetings. So it's kind of undetermined after the end of June what we'll do. So I will say one thing, the virtual meetings have been very well throughout the county. The ones we've had, I've always I didn't stay at home. I came down to the dais and sat at my seat for our meetings. And to me, it felt just like a regular meeting because we got IT and all those things happening just like in a normal meeting. And when I was sitting in my seat, I couldn't really tell the difference other than I had about 3 people in the room instead of 50. So, but the meetings were carried on very well. IT, all the staff, agendas and everything, even for this meeting, went very well considering that we're all so far apart actually. So
yeah, thank you,
they're
Todd.
very well, and yet the ability to be able to have these meetings virtually is really opens up a new light in our future, even for office space and things of that nature that we may not need that office space in the future and just work with the office space we have. So it's kind of enlightened all of us about what we can do if needed to be. And I know all the Pasco County staff and all have been working, most everybody from home, and have done a very good job. I will tell you that I think they've all done a good job, but there's some people that have excelled since they've been at home for some reason. I guess it's more relaxed or something, but they've gotten a lot of good information, a lot of good things happening through this process that you might have thought couldn't be carried on. So
the only drawback, Commissioner, is that I have a dog that likes to chime in at the wrong time all the time.
Yeah, well, I understand that dogs have to talk when they have to talk. So, but other than that, everything is going on real well. So very appreciative of all the staff, all the clerk's office, IT, everybody involved. So all the different counties pretty much, I think, are having the same kind of meetings. I know the cities are doing a similar meetings, and they're doing very well also.
And also thanks the LCB board members for chiming in today for the action item.
Yeah, when you show up on a virtual meeting like this and we're able to carry out a meeting like this, and the board members being there for us and offering information throughout the county about disadvantaged transportation is very important. And we certainly appreciate all of you being a part of it. So,
Commissioner, if I could I wouldn't do my due diligence from a public health standpoint if I didn't plug the notion that in the vein of what you're describing, people keep coming back to, well, what's the new normal? I think we've sat down with our staff and we've had to change our processes that may be the new norm, not because of COVID, but because there are efficiencies and better ways to doing things. So we're trying to take this adversity and turning it into something that is positive and not strictly driven based on COVID, but driven based on best practices and efficiency in government. And if all of a sudden I declared today there's no more COVID in the world, would you go back to doing the same things you were doing in the past? And hopefully you'd say no, because we're using technology now and we're using things that there's nothing like a good handshake in a personal relationship, but I think there are avenues. And I would just challenge all of you in your businesses and how you do business is that not just because of COVID, but just because that's a good business practice is look at what you're doing and saying, yeah, I could probably do things differently and save money and be better productive. So I would just plug that for just business operations and not just COVID. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think we've seen the same thing in the county. We've we've been able to be more efficient than what we were before. And for some reason, people have buckled down and actually did it. So, I mean, there's something about it. And when times got tough, then we see that our people step up and do the right thing when we're trying to carry on these meetings. And I'm sure you find that also in your office, Mike. So, you work, but your time and all in working is a little different than you was before. So it's not necessarily the 8 to 5. It might be anymore from 6 in the morning to 12. So, but I mean, it's the time when I guess they stay home and that more relaxed. There's a lot of good input coming from the staff members that are at home working. So I'm sure we're all seeing that. There's going to be a new norm, I think, because you see some of the facilities as far as restaurants and all. It's pretty amazing when some of the restaurants, like I heard the other day, Taco Bell, they increased their business 1,000% during this COVID-19. It's pretty amazing they're able to do that, and it's without sit down. It's drive-through, which is going to change away that type restaurant and other restaurants like that to not necessarily have a sit-down restaurant anymore, but a drive-through. Some of them have done very well at it. The problem is some restaurants have really struggled, and some big box businesses also have struggled through this time. But hopefully some of that will come back and be good again. I can tell you this: the economy is strong, and you're going to be amazed what's going to happen with this economy as we move far into this new era that we're going through. This economy in the United States is going to do very well, I think. So, but I appreciate each and every one of your board members. Take care. We will, I guess, have this meeting. What date did you tell me? June?
August.
Oh,
Next
August.
meeting, August 27th.
August 27th will be our next meeting. So if there's no other questions, we'll adjourn the meeting. Okay. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.